Hello aspirants, welcome to the Metis IAS NCERT Foundation course for the UPSC Civil Services Examination. NCERT builds your basics, but UPSC tests something deeper, that is clarity and application. That is why in this course we study NCERT with a UPSC mind. Now let us come to today's session. Today is day 5th and our chapter is chapter 4, Key Elements of a Democratic Government. The chapter explains why democracy functions and what makes governments legitimate. To begin with, we need a foundation. NCERT gives a simple definition for what is democracy. Democracy is a form of government where people participate in decision making and elect their representatives. What is meant by democracy? Democracy is a form of government. Democracy is a form of government where people participate in decision making and elect their representatives. But democracy does not work automatically. Participation alone is not enough. It works only when citizens actively participate and when the state treats everyone equally and justly. So, the first key element NCERT highlights is participation. Participation is the first essential element of democracy. People participate in many ways through elections, through debates, through protests, through discussions, and by expressing public opinion freely. These actions, these actions allows citizens to question the government, to pressure the government, and when necessary, to replace the government peacefully. This is how democracy creates accountability. And UPSC uses a specific term for this. That is, UPSC calls this accountability through participation. Accountability through participation. The secondary key element is equality and justice. Equality and justice. Equality means all citizens have equal status and rights. Equality means all citizens have equal status and rights. NCERT gives practical indicators of equality. In practice, it means one person, one vote, equality before law, and equal access to public services. But equality alone is not enough. Democracy also requires the idea of justice. Democracy also requires the idea of justice. Democracy must ensure justice, that is, fair treatment and removal of discrimination, that is, justice. Without justice, equality becomes symbolic. Without equality, democracy becomes oppressive. Now, the question is, why does democracy actually work in practice? NCERT gives a simple logic. Democracy works because government is formed by consent of the people. People can question it, people can replace it. Therefore, the government remains accountable and responsive. UPSC adds a deeper political science layer to this. UPSC explains that democracy converts conflict into negotiation instead of conflict turning into violence. This is extremely important in a diverse country like India. UPSC explains that democracy converts conflict into negotiation instead of conflict turning into violence. This is extremely important in a diverse country like India. Let us consolidate the important vocabulary here. Let us log the important keywords. Democracy means rule by the people. Participation means taking part in decisions. Equality means same rights for all. Justice means fairness. And accountability means government answerable to citizens. Democracy means, what is meant by democracy? Rule by the people. What is meant by participation? Taking part in decisions. What is meant by equality? Same rights for all. Justice means fairness without discrimination. And accountability means government answerable to its citizens. These five ideas quietly form the base of GS2 paper mains of UPSC CSE. Now, let us look at how UPSC has used these ideas. UPSC has repeatedly tested these concepts. In Prelims 2017, UPSC tested people's participation through an Abraham Lincoln's quotation. In Prelims 2014, UPSC tested rule of law, which is equality before the law. In Mains 2018, GS2 asked about accountability, responsiveness, and openness. So, a small NCERT chapter can generate a big UPSC questions. And even at the interview stage, the angle changes further. In the UPSC interview, boards do not ask definitions. Boards do not ask definitions. They ask, how do you make democracy work? How do you make democracy work? Potential questions include that, how do elections create accountability? Do protests strengthen democracy or weaken governance? Can democracy succeed without equality? How should a government resolve conflict? These questions test administrative thinking, not memorization. So, let us compress the chapter into one operational formula that is called Metis concept stamp. Democracy works when people participate and when people remain equal. If participation collapses, democracy becomes hollow. If equality collapses, democracy becomes oppressive. We can now summarize the whole chapter in under a minute. To summarize, democracy requires participation, participation creates accountability, equality ensures fairness, justice removes discrimination. Together they make government legitimate and stable. To summarize, democracy requires participation. Participation creates accountability. Equality ensures fairness. Justice removes discrimination. Together they make government legitimate and stable. This is the structural logic behind chapter 4. Today's task is simple. Read the chapter once, then write in your notebook two ways people participate, two examples of equality and justice, and one example where democracy resolved conflict. Write answers for these three questions in your notebook. Do not memorize, observe society, think like an administrator. And in the next session, we move one layer deeper. In the next class, we will study how democratic institutions function and how constitutions, elections, and institutions produce stable governance. Until then, revise slowly, think clearly, Metis IAS, where concepts become marks and clarity becomes your competitive advantage. Thank you.